I once got asked in a tech interview if I was comfortable making money. I thought that meant salary. That's not what they meant. That misunderstanding cost me years, and this video is about making sure it doesn't cost you the same. So stay tuned. If you've ever moved into tech from nonprofit, government, or education, and things feel off, this will explain why. And if you're thinking of moving over to corporate or tech, this video is also for you. This will help you create a better resume. It'll help you pitch better. It'll help you negotiate better. And if you're already in tech or corporate, it'll help you just maybe get your sanity back. I'm currently reading Careless People by Sarah Wynn-Williams. She is the former global director of policy from Facebook. And she started working there when it was still a pretty new company, where when it wasn't the Facebook we know it as today, it was the Facebook as, oh, that internet thing for kids, right? So that is important context in terms of Facebook was one of the first super tech companies, and they to this day kind of set the path for what tech is doing, right? And what I learning from the book is that she was an Australian, New Zealand, one of those middle class woman who saw where Facebook was going or what Facebook could be, and through just pure grit, hustle, work, she found her way to Facebook. But she was going to Facebook based on Facebook's mission. The mission was about connecting people through the internet. So the mission, what I've learned in my own experience and what I'm kind of being validated in this book, and the reason why this book is kind of sticking with me is because uh, Facebook is so big, Meta is so big. So the fact that she is articulating the same things I experienced at a smaller startup, I'm like, oh, this really just is how tech works. She was attracted to the mission. The mission of Facebook back then was about community building and communication through, through the internet. So that's what she was attracted to, and she saw where it could go, especially in terms of global connecting, politics, etc. However, throughout the book, she talks about how a lot of decisions were not made based on, oh, how can we connect people together? It was made on how can we make more profit. And I had a very similar experience. When I was switching over to tech, the very, very, very last interview with the founder, the CEO, I believe it was probably the last question. He said something to the extent of, I see that you have been working, at that point in my career, I had worked in education, government, nonprofits, higher education, very mission-driven spaces that their priority was not profit, i.e. nonprofit. And it wasn't clicking. I wasn't clocking it, whatever the saying is right now. When he asked me, I see your background. Are you comfortable with making money? And I was just like in my head, I was like, why do you think I'm moving from a government job to a tech job? I want money. Because I was thinking my paycheck. When in actuality, what was meant was, will you make profit first decisions, even when it conflicts with the outcomes? Meaning that, yes, this is the mission that we're supposed to abide by and the people we say we're serving. But when push comes to shove, are you going to make the decision that is going to make us profit, even if it undermines the people we say we're serving? And I didn't understand that too much later. And I think this is something that I struggled with and other people struggled with. And if I'm being very honest, the people who struggled with this are people who came from nonprofit to profit spaces, but also the people who came from different socioeconomic statuses. Because I think if you come from a middle working class space, your idea is, let me work, let me make the world better. If you're already coming from a very privileged space, you already understand that money and leverage, it's all about how do we make money, right? It's you're not necessarily sitting here caring about the next person. The only person you're caring about is the person who's going to help you get more money. So that question, that understanding is a cultural translation gap that needs to be understood. Because if you want to work in tech or corporate, you have to understand what the culture is asking for you and lean into it. Right. And so this was very much foreshadowing for me. And I finally figured out and learned it. And I'm still in tech, and I have a much better mental health because of it. because the mission explains the story to attract people, but profit really governs behavior. Profit is what is going to dictate your day to day and how you engage, right? So, and I think if you're moving from a education, nonprofit, government background, you went into those fields because you are trained to optimize or you care about optimizing for people and making their lives better. While tech is optimizing for scale and revenue. So every decision you're making is, will it make the company money? If the answer is no, then that's not it. And if maybe it's not going to make the company money in the short term, but you can make a very strong argument for why it will in the long term, then sure, but it has to be really crystal clear and you have to connect the dots. So it's not necessarily about ethics anymore, it's about incentive design. Which then leads me to when I work with a lot of my clients who are looking to pivot, what I really want people to understand is a lot of the jobs that people are looking for, whether it's HR, um, post sales, pre sales, marketing, things of that nature, sometimes can sit in areas that are not making money for the company. They're important, but they're not necessarily making money for for the company, which is called a cost center. So if you're a cost center, you're always being evaluated. Why? Because they are paying you money and not getting a profit from you, right? So this is still helpful. For example, if you're in the HR team is not directly making the company money. But what you have to do is that if the division that you're in is not a cost center, sorry, is a cost center, you have to make sure that you're not a cost center. And what that means is that if you're working in HR, you need to make the argument daily and be very visible about how you are saving the company money. So you might not be making the company money, but you're saving the company money. How are you saving the company money? You were able to hire someone in half the time as the rest of your team, meaning that they're able to get on whatever team they're going on to make that team money. The people you hire stay at the company longer. What does that mean? You're spending less money attracting people, stuff like that, right? Make sure that if your division is a cost center for the company, you prove that you are actually making the company money. And then in other ways to make sure that you're not only getting the job, but securing your job is making sure that you are networking well, right? And you're creating a web for yourself. And you're also very proximal to decision makers. So if anything was to happen, usually cost centers are the first to go. That's why you usually know something is happening when recruiters start getting laid off, when anyone in a cost center gets laid off, because the company is trying to shed as much money as possible so they can stay as long as possible. So as you get into these spaces, as you start thinking about your pivot, feeling disoriented is very real, right? And that's because you're trained for a different system. But because it's a system, that means you can change, you can adapt, you can start reading the system. You can stop internalizing the structural decisions and say, hey, okay, now that I have clarity on what this thing is, what this industry is, how do I stay sane and employed, or how do I get a job? Right? Because if you're positioning, maybe you want the flexibility of tech, maybe you want the remoteness, maybe you want the 9 to 5, maybe you want the benefits. There's so many reasons why you would still want to be in tech, but understanding that the mission that is being put out there as a story, as the marketing, is exactly that. But the real thing, what you have to prove at every single step is how are you making or saving the company money? So it's really about positioning more than anything else. And this is the work that I do with people transitioning into or within tech. It's learning how to read incentives. It's choosing roles intentionally. It's building leverage without losing yourself. And as I mentioned earlier, that first tech role I got into, I relate so much to this Careless People book because I'm like, oh, it was not a unique experience to me in this environment that I was in. But I learned from that, and I've soon been able to move over to other tech companies that are much healthier. And yes, I understand the bottom line is always going to be make money, but the teams that I've joined are much healthier for me. So if you're looking to pivot over, please reach out. Let's talk. So that way you're walking into it with understanding and not getting burnt out. So you can learn the rules that were never explained and never really will be explained. So I look forward to seeing you in my DMs, but I also look forward to sharing more. So please subscribe if you love more information like this.